There is a stretch of the Atlantic Ocean that holds a very specific place in our collective imagination, a jagged boundary where ships and aircraft are supposedly swallowed by the sea, never to be seen again. If you ask around, you'll immediately hear the theories. Rogue magnetic fields spinning compasses wildly, extraterrestrial abductions pulling crews skyward, even tears in space-time. But this supernatural label was applied after the fact. The myth actually has a birthday, a specific, documented moment when the folklore began, December 5th, 1945. Stripping away 80 years of pop culture folklore reveals a documented historical tragedy. This specific event provided the raw material for the world's most enduring maritime legend. On a day with perfectly clear skies, 5 military aircraft took off on a standard flight. Hours later, every single one of them disappeared from the sky simultaneously. The military immediately scrambled a massive search and rescue plane to find them. And then, that rescue plane vanished too. By nightfall, 6 aircraft and dozens of highly trained men were gone. The military scoured the waters, but found absolutely nothing. No oil slicks, no debris, no bodies. It was an absolute vanishing act, and a total absence of physical evidence is terrifying. It leaves a void, a perfectly blank slate for society to project its deepest anxieties onto the dark water. The day started without a hint of danger. It was a clear Florida afternoon at the Naval Air Station in Fort Lauderdale. This map illustrates the intended mission. The objective was incredibly straightforward: fly a standard, 3-legged route over the water to practice basic navigation, and then return to base. The men in the cockpits were seasoned aviators. They had flown this exact pattern multiple times. They knew the landmarks, they knew the timing, and they knew their planes. Every variable was controlled. The weather was cooperative, the equipment was checked, the route was mapped, which is why the subsequent breakdown of both machinery and human logic defies easy explanation. A few hours into the exercise, the control tower received an alarming transmission. The flight leader was reporting severe technical issues. This updated map shows the disaster unfolding. The flight leader stated his compasses had stopped functioning. Looking down, he couldn't recognize landmarks. The islands looked wrong, the water looked wrong. According to readouts, they were completely lost, drifting aimlessly over the open Atlantic. Panic in a tight formation is contagious. As the leader struggled to find a bearing, the other pilots began to realize the gravity of their situation. The strict discipline of a military squadron fractured into collective disorientation. Over the radio, the tower listened to the men arguing, their voices thick with dread as fuel gauges dropped. Then came the final, desperate message: "We don't know where we are." And then, static. In the span of a few seconds, an active military emergency ended, and a permanent historical mystery began. The Navy immediately mobilized. They sent ships slicing through the water and scrambled dozens of aircraft to scan the surface, desperate to find the downed men. Among the search party was a massive seaplane known as a PBM Mariner, built to land on rough water and pull survivors to safety. The Mariner took off, fully fueled and fully crewed. 20 minutes later, its radar blips simply blinked out. The search operation dragged on for days, covering hundreds of thousands of square miles. The final tally yielded 0 survivors. Not a single life raft, not a drop of oil. The United States military possessed the most advanced aviation and naval technology on the planet, yet they had to admit they were entirely powerless to explain how 6 planes had just been erased from the sky. Left with absolutely nothing to analyze, Navy investigators were forced to close the official inquiry. Their final report essentially stated that the aircraft had vanished as if they had flown to Mars. There are terrestrial explanations, of course: a catastrophic microburst weather event, a severe navigation error leading to fuel starvation. But without a shredded wing or a shattered fuselage to study, none of these theories can ever truly be proven. Human psychology struggles to process a total absence of data. We are wired to find logic in chaos, and we find little comfort in a narrative that simply stops mid-sentence. A tragedy of this scale, totally devoid of evidence, creates a massive vacuum of information. And if reality can't fill that void with answers, culture will eagerly fill it with legends. In the decades that followed, authors and filmmakers seized upon Flight 19. They bundled the missing bombers with other lost ships, drew an imaginary border on a map, and the Bermuda Triangle was officially born. The alien abductions and dimensional gateways make for highly entertaining fiction, but they distract us from the sobering reality of what actually occurred off the coast of Florida that day. Dozens of real human lives were lost during those final hours. Their disappearance left families permanently shattered, mourning loved ones without a grave. The pop culture myth of the Bermuda Triangle is etched so deeply into our minds, it will likely live forever. But the true, haunting legacy of December 5th, 1945, is simply that the ocean is vast, and sometimes it never gives back what it takes.